عمرونا سيتا ويلي لهم ما يمقع عمرونا وكوانني هم ما يرسكوا مرعنا هو يا ماي هو يا يا هو يا ماي هو
السلام عليكم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي عسى أن يهديني ربي لأقرب من هذا رشدا. Okay, tonight is gonna be in English. I've done already 2 series. One was in Afar language. Obviously, I'm talking about Afar people history, and then last night I've done it in French, and tonight it's gonna be in English. Okay, and that's the story I'm gonna talk about today is Afar people history. When I mean when I talk about Afar people, is an African history, is the cradle of mankind, and so the cradle of civilization, is everything. So if I use today this African proverbs where it's saying until the lions have their own story, and the glory of the glory of the hunting will be was told by by the hunters. So yeah, until they have their own historians, hunting stories can only sing about the glory of the hunters, and that's what has been happening for Africans for centuries. Our history was disappropriated, disinvented, and then obviously other people used it, and then who best can relate this story about African and Afar people than an Afar person himself. The one thing you need to know today, if you are of African descent, you are called African. And remember, this comes from the Afar people names, Afarike, African. So the reason why Afar people is the cradle of mankind. So I'm gonna try tonight to show you different aspects who link Afar people, on mankind history, really, and it's the global ancestor. If I can put it mildly and simply, Afar is the global ancestor, and I'm gonna try to show it to you, using obviously the genetics, the history, and the scriptures as well, and I can show it to you. And this is a story that's been disinvented on purpose because it didn't suit the people who obviously colonized and controlling the world. Up to today, they don't want this history to come out. So my role, my duty, I have a duty today, not only to Afar people and to myself, but to the African people, to reappropriate our history. By doing so, you're gonna see that's really Afar people history has been disinvented. You know what I mean by disinvented? They wiped it out on purpose, and because if it was to come up, and obviously then they will have annihilated the narrative of superiority and all these things. Because if someone has an identity, a strong identity in history, it's impossible to subjugate him or her, and that's the thing. So now obviously I'm gonna start for simply by prehistory, what you call paleontology and all these things. So as you know, Afar, the region and in Horn of Africa, is the cradle of mankind. You probably heard about Lucy afarensis. That's the earliest humanoid they found in Omo Valley, in Ethiopia, the Afar Triangle. The history today is Afar Triangle, and obviously, and Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti, and obviously this is where it all began. And then today, obviously, it's there have been fossils and everything that have been found, and this is where the Afar people home, original home. And then obviously 3.2 million years, and then obviously I'm gonna go straight. They find several, obviously Lucy, Ramid, and all the Idaltu, and so many of them who are close to humanoid. you know, has been found in the region of Afar region, and then obviously Afarensis, Ramid, and Idaltu, all these things, Kadanumu, all these the names obviously bear the name of the Afar language and all these things. And we'll come to Afar language as well, and I'm gonna link it. And nothing is exaggerated tonight in here. Is you can check it for yourself, and then it's there hidden. But obviously you have to do the you know, to link the dots, you know, the line. So you have to link everything together, and that's my objective today, to do so. I told you rough, you know, simply and quickly about, you know, Lucy and the humanoid and all these things, 3.2 million years and so on. Then obviously, and then now I'm gonna pass to the, you know, I'm gonna show you a small clip, and obviously before I pass to the to scripture, and I have to show you where I'm bringing all these things from. Today, as you probably are aware, we genetically there are database you know, build up across the world. So if you have the chance to have your DNA taken today, it's not expensive, to be honest with you. For $50-60 you can have that done, you know, and then your genome and everything will be linked geographically pinpointed across the world, and telling you which group you are from and where you are and all these things. I've been lucky to have done that, and then I have that information. But I'm gonna show you this the history. This man is called, his name is Eddie Izzard. He's a British guy, man, and he wanted to know where am I from. Obviously, as being British, in Britain you have different group, you know. So you have obviously the Celt, you have Anglo-Saxons, you have what we call the Vikings and all these things. So he wanted to know which group I belong to. So that was his quest, and he had the answer to that question. Obviously, he had. But he went even beyond that. Then he has to go back through his mother and his father's side, you know, back to time, to Africa. This is where it all began. That's why I was trying to show you that with Lucy and all these things, all began in Africa. All people, all race were Africans at the origin. There was no other race or color. Yeah, so only 8,000 years ago, pigmentation changed and all these things. So that's what happened. So he wanted to know, okay, all right. So yes, he went back to Africa. He traveled through his DNA from Africa to modern day England, you know, and that's the things. And the finding there clearly say the first person people to leave Africa and populate the rest of the world were Afar people. Today, DNA show it without a doubt. And he said clearly himself, every single person is the first Exodus. Remember, you know the Exodus of children of Israel, you know probably more other Exodus. But the first Exodus was Afar people. Then we crossed the Bab el-Mandab in the Red Sea to Yemen, and then obviously, and then the other groups, Afar populated the rest of the world. And 9 out of 10 people who left Africa today are from Afar descent. That's genetically proven today. And every single people you know, they're from Middle East to Europe, you know, and beyond, even up to China, Vietnam, are people who are from African descent according to genetic print, and that's the fact. So I'm gonna show you a quick 2 clips who roughly tell you that, because then I will link it to the scriptures, because first of all I have to show you where I'm coming from, and then I'll show you as well, according to the scriptures, where I've got my information as well. And as I was telling you early on, well, today Africa is Afar people's name, and so that's why, and I'll show you why Africa was named after Afar people as well. So let me show you quickly this video. So this is Eddie Izzard, Um, so
Eddie Izzard, actor, comedian,
Morning! This is Stephen. Going hunting.
transvestite, and marathon runner extraordinaire, is about to embark on a remarkable journey, using his own DNA as the roadmap.
I've always been fascinated by genetics and the fact that it can bring my history right here. It's like magic.
Locked within each of us is a genetic history book. It reveals not only our deep ancestry, but also the journey of mankind across the globe.
This is it. The birthplace of the Exodus. The first Exodus.
Recent breakthroughs in genetics will allow Eddie to use his own DNA to unlock the secrets of where he and we came from.
Instead of going back to the last couple of hundred years, we're going to go back to the last couple of 100,000 years.
This is the epic story of humanity's journey from our shared origins in Africa 10,000 generations ago, all the way to Eddie Izzard.
This is the first time in Britain that an individual has looked at their own DNA and used that to retrace their ancestral journey.
My ancestors came across here.
And finally, he'll bridge the gap between his genetic and family history.
I believe we are related.
To explore what emerges from the sandstorm at his destination, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. He's just 35 kilometers from the Arabian country of Yemen, where it's thought modern humans first stepped outside Africa. Bizarrely, the Yemen is also where Eddie himself was born. Today, on the African side of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, fishing is still as important as it was to our ancestors. To explore what life might have been like around 60,000 years ago, Eddie is off to help catch some fish, accompanied by his translator, Fatima. They are meeting Nouria Ahmed Suli. She is one of just 3 fisherwomen in the whole of Djibouti.
Nouria, who is from Djibouti, an Afar woman, which is very close to the Yemeni people. Yemen is just over there. And she's the captain. You can see it in her face that she's a can-do woman.
okay, yeah. So Afar people are the first to leave Africa and to populate the rest of the world. And then today, you know, almost every single person outside of Africa is of Afar descent, especially from the Middle East and Europe and all these things, and are today from Afar descent. Now I'm gonna try to link it to the scriptures. Okay. The reason why I do that, because Afar people are the people of priesthood, and I'm gonna show it to you. And then obviously it goes way beyond in the scriptures. Okay, I'm gonna have to take you obviously scriptures. What I mean by scriptures, I mean from the Torah, Bible, and the Quran. So obviously, and then I'm gonna link it to Abrahamic, faiths, and then obviously to today, or the three Abrahamic faiths, as you are aware. So okay, so as you know, Adam and Eve, so we Homo sapien at least are descendant of Adam and Eve. Okay, so what happened is then Adam and Eve had 2 children, as you know, Cain can kill Abel, and then obviously then after that yes, Seth, Adam has Eve have Seth, and then obviously now they are gonna talk to you about the descendants of Seth, up to modern days, kind of thing. So that's exactly what happened. As you know, you have Seth, after Seth you have Enosh, and then you have Canaan. Now stay with me. Canaan, who is Canaan? Canaan is the ancestor of the Afar, because it's at that level the history of our Afar people start. Canaan is Canaan, Canaanite, and all these things. So So this is what happened. And who's Canaan? Canaan is the, is the his great grandfather of Enoch, as you know, Prophet Enoch. And Enoch obviously is great grandfather of Noah. So at that level, the history of our people starts. So with Canaan, who's after Adam, is the fourth line of of children of so Canaan is the fourth after Adam. Obviously, I'm not counting the first twin, Abel and Cain, so that's the different. So this is the third child. Seth is the third child of Adam. So we go back, then obviously we go to Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, who's the father of Noah, and then Noah. Noah in himself is a descendant of Canaan, as I told you, who the people you can call Canaanite and all these things. So this is why the Afar people history transcends almost everybody, because everything will relate back to Afar people. As I was telling you on the genetic side of things, and this is no fluke, because there is an explanation to that. So then Noah, who is clearly an Afar descendant, because he's a Canaan, from Canaan descendants. So then from there on, obviously you have then Noah, Shem, and Ham and Japheth. So Shem himself, Noah himself is of Afar descendants, is a Canaanite. That's the things. Later on, you can play with the name Ham, Shem, and all these things. Canaanite. Doesn't matter how you play with that to falsify the history on all these things, or obviously to make it look. Even at the time of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, there was only one race on earth. There wasn't 10. At that moment, yet human beings were one race, and up to Canaan, there was only one language, and I dare to say it was Afar language too. Yes, it's the language of the heaven, and obviously we will come another day to that part of the linguistic and all these things to show that, because if you read the Quran today and on other languages and all these things, you can find clearly Afar words who have the same meaning as today Afar language. So then Noah, obviously after Noah we know Shem, Japheth, all things like that. I won't go into the things, because I told you now I perused the history. Obviously I was looking for Afar links, so I'm not here to make any biblical sense of things or religious sense of things. I'm trying to show you the history, and then the linking is what is the direct linkage, to Afar history and all these things. So what happened? Obviously Noah, and then we're gonna go to Abraham. Okay. So as I told you, Afar people transcend almost everybody, not almost everybody, to be honest with you. So this is where everything starts with the Afar people. So these people who've been bestowed into prophethood, and I'm gonna show it to you along the way. Where Afar people, I repeat, are the people that have been bestowed with prophethood. The first people were bestowed with prophethood by the Creator, by God, and that is, and I'm gonna show it to you, along the way as we go along, and move, across history, across the Bible, and all those things. Okay, Abraham, prophet God, as you know, and who he was, as you know, Canaanite as well, because he was Canaan descendants, and Noah and all those things, as you are aware of that. Okay, so then obviously most people at the time, so people in that part of the world or things like that, in the Middle East and all these things, were Afar descendants. Ophir, Afar, Efrat, the Efrat, the lake, all these things used to have the name of Afar, Gulf of Ophir. So who was Abraham? Who he married into? So obviously, if I go now to the nomination that people use, Shem, Ham, Canaanite, Canaanite, or Moabites, and all these things. As I was showing you earlier on, according to DNA, everybody that that populated the Middle East and Europe and all this thing is of Afar descent. So now this validates the scriptures as well, and all the scriptures validate the scientific side of things, and that's exactly what's happening. So Abraham, who was Abraham, as you know, obviously a prophet of God, and who was Abraham? What happened? Who he married to? Okay, Abraham married to Hagar. Hagar had, obviously, he was himself a prophet. Noah was a prophet. So you see what I mean? What I say to you, the Afar was the first people who were bestowed into prophethood, and all the descendants were as well. So what you call, bestowed with prophethood as well. So Hagar, obviously Hagar had Ismail, Prophet Ismail, as you know, who are the descendant of the Arabs and everybody else, the 12 tribe as well from that side. And then Abraham had 3 wives, as you know, 3 wives. Obviously Sarah, Sarah, and then Sarah gave birth to Isaac, and Isaac had Esau and Jacob. Okay, so that's the line of the Canaan, obviously, or Seth, Canaan, and from Adam, Seth, Canaan, and obviously Enoch, and so on, and up to there. And then he married a 3rd wife. Probably most people are not aware of that. Her name was Keturah, and then obviously she was a Canaanite as well. Canaanite as well. So who was obviously, as you know, Sarah gave obviously the descendants or children of Israel, Judah, and all these things, as you know. And then Keturah, obviously Ismail, or the Arabs and all these things. And then Keturah was Sheba, what you call Job, and the queen of Sheba, all these things. So that's the descendants. All this links to the Afar people history, and this is why the Afar people history was disinvented, because it could not come to light, because if everybody has to hide this history, and that's exactly what they were trying to do. So now let's go back to if I go back to the history of things, then obviously I will go back to Esau and Jacob. So as you know, Esau and Jacob were twins. Then apparently, according to scriptures, Esau sold his right of elder brothers. He sold that right to Jacob, and then apparently Jacob then Isaac, Prophet Isaac, then was obviously he tried to how can I put the word? He tried to really steal from his brother these things and dupe. He tried to dupe his father Isaac into making him think that he was Esau, to bless him. Then obviously he blessed him. I won't go into detail, but he blessed him. Instead, thinking he was blessing Esau, he blessed Jacob, and then obviously has all the blessing Jacob, and then obviously what happened, and then the firstborn right was lost. Up to then, the firstborn right was what was going on according to tradition, according to God laws and all the things. Then obviously it was too late when Esau found out about it. Then he asked his father Isaac to bless him. He said, "I already blessed him, your brother," and all these things. Then then obviously, you know, Jacob had 12 children, the 12 children of Israel and all this thing. Then what happened is up to Saul, Talut in the Quran, as to Talut, Saul, the what you call the right of the firstborn was lost. Then after Talut, Saul sinned against God or disobeyed God, God take back the blessing, and then he gave back the first born right back to Esau and his descendants, who's David, King David, and then who's Esau? Then what happened is when Jacob obviously triggered his brother, and he traveled, he ran away to Canaan. He will go back to Canaan, and then for to his uncle, and then he stayed there. He married Rachel, who's his uncle's daughter, and all these things. So then Esau was angry. He went back to he went to live with the Edomites. Well, the Edomites are the descendants of the Afar people as well. So the so the people of Moab, the Lot, as you know, Abraham and Lot, was Lot was Abraham's nephew. So they obviously didn't have enough space for the cheptel for the animals, so it was too small and there was enough grass. Then they have to part, and then Lot to go towards Moab and all those things. Then he settled there, and Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the part of the things, and up to the Jordan. So the Edomites are those people. So Esau married into the Edomites, and then obviously he became these people. Edomites become his people. And then from there on, obviously, and then as soon as Saul disobeyed God, and then obviously he loses his right to be king of Israel and all these things. Then the Davidic line starts. Davidic line starts with David, and if you see from Davidic line, if we go from Davidic line. And then obviously I'm gonna show you the prophethood things here, because you'll have to bear with me. You have to bear with me here. So what happened is, obviously, if I go from now Esau, Judah, so then he married obviously a Canaanite, Bathshua. Then he had 3 children. He had Onan, and Shelah. Then that's from the first wife, so he had that. And then he had the 3 children is Onan, and Shelah, as I told you. So married Tamar, but he was evil, so God killed him, and Onan as well, he died. He was he did bad things, so he died as well. So Tamar married 2 of them. So eventually Judah has I won't go into this thing, because obviously it's not something I want to go to, but obviously Judah had two children, what I call again twins, Perez and Zerah. He had Perez and Zerah. And then who was Tamar? Tamar was Shua's daughter, who came from Keturah Abraham line, Canaanite. So coming from, and she's Shua's daughter. Her father is Shua, in 6th line after in the line of Abraham and Keturah. So that's why I was telling you the prophethood of the people who were not born in the priesthood. So that's mean Ahl al-Bayt. The first Ahl al-Bayt is the Afar people, and that's according to the scriptures is confirmed. So obviously so Judah have and Tamar have 2 twins. Then obviously Perez and Zerah. Then obviously now we're gonna go through the line of Perez at the Davidic line, where the Davidic line start, and then we're gonna go back up to Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, and all. Obviously, that's I'm gonna show you how it happened. So Perez, obviously Perez father Hezron, obviously you have Ram, father Boaz marry into, remember Boaz has an ancestors who Canaanite and as well, you should, I mean, you know, and then Boaz marry Ruth or Moabites, yeah, who marry Moabites, whose roots, if you see in the Bible and all these things, you will find out the roots are the ancestors of Jesus as well. So and obviously great grandmother of David, King David. So Moabites. So then obviously Ruth and Boaz marry. They have a child, Obed, and then Obed father Jesse, who has 7 sons. Jesse is the father of King David. Yeah, so they have 7 sons. Obviously David 7 sons and 2 daughters. 2 daughters. Then Jesse's daughters are Abigail. Abigail married Jeter, who's Ismailite as well from Keturah sign. Yeah, so Ismailite. So it's from Ismail, actually, from Ismail, as you know, from Hagar and Ismail descendant. So and then they have at least more son, but that one is called Amasa or Masa, who was the bodyguard of King David, and the bodyguard later on of Solomon, and chief of staff of Solomon. And then obviously, and then Jesse had another daughter, Zeruah, who had Joab. Joab was the chief of staff of David. Okay, so that's the thing. So and you have Abishai as well. Abishai who was as well from the Canaanite. Abishai as Joab, actually Joab, Abishai, Asahel, were in the army of David. As you know, David himself married Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, who was a Hittite. Hittites are a Canaanite, Canaanite. So Bathsheba, this is the mother of Solomon, King Solomon's mother Bathsheba. So she's a Canaanite. So and then this is showing you the linkage between Afar people and all the prophet, the priesthood ran through before obviously Abraham until Jesus and up to Prophet Muhammad, because Ismail and Hagar was a Canaanite, she was from Afar descent as well. So is all the prophets through history. And then what happened is I'm gonna obviously come back slowly to Moses and so on, but so let's make sure that I am now within the whatever. So obviously, I show you through the history of the scriptures now, so you can find that King so in so many scriptures now, King James Bibles and in normal other Bibles, you can see through all the Chronicles, Exodus, all these things. You see Ophir, Afar people, so all these things. So either you call them Canaanite, and you call them Moabites, or you call them Phoenicians, on all these things, Ophir. All this is Afar people, or all Canaan descendants. So this is why this history has been hidden on purpose, because this has to be really in a way hidden, from everybody. So this is exactly what was that happened. So, and let me tell you the history. Let me see. So I was telling you through history, obviously of Abrahamic or Davidic descendants, you can see the linkage between Afar people and the rest of the, that show the position of being the global ancestor. So then Moses, let's go back to Moses. As you probably know, Moses was a prophet of Israel, and then he was in Egypt. Obviously, you know, Jacob moved after his son Joseph. Jacob, after his son Joseph moved there, then the children of Israel moved to Egypt. They stayed there 430 years roughly. And then obviously they were mistreated, by pharaohs, and as well, let me tell you as well, pharaohs are the descendants of Afar. They used to call our land the land of the gods and of the ancestors. Way before Solomon, they used to come, in our land to, like Abraham used to do. Solomon used to do for gold and for incense, and they used to call it Puntland, so that, and historically there have been links, and obviously we believe, and most people will believe, if I show you some kind of a photo, all these things, and I'll probably show it to you. I don't know if here I can show it to you, some photos maybe. See if that is available to me. I'll show you. Yeah, roughly, let me show you. So yeah, this is Afar people. This is what you call Pharaoh's people. This is Afar warriors, Afar tradition, the dreadlocks and all these things. So this is the people I am talking about, and the pharaohs used to see us because we are their ancestors, the land of the gods and of the ancestors, and this is exactly what used to happen. And then pharaohs obviously mistreated children of Israel. As you know, Moses, who used to be a prince of Egypt, as you probably know through the scriptures, he hit an Egyptian man. The Egyptian man, what happened? The Egyptian man is killed, and then obviously the Pharaoh find out, and then Moses flee, because obviously he feared for his life, that he's gonna be killed for revenge, and then he go into the land of Midian. Midian was as well is another part of Afar people. Medians, Canaanite, Ophir, Phoenician, all come to the same thing as I was showing you early on, according to the DNA. So then Moses come to Afar land, and if you see the Quran as well say Jethro. You probably heard Jethro if you know your scripture of the Quran. In the Quran, he's not called Jethro, he's called Shu'aib, Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam. So Shu'aib, he came into the land of Midian, and as well it's very telling in the Quran, Ashab al-Aika. Yes, in the Quran, Midians and the Jethro's people are called Ashab al-Aika. Now, something I have to be carefully. This is why people who wanna really appropriate their history and who wanna hide it, play with the words, and then obviously Afar was in East Africa, and it was in Middle East, in everywhere, because I was telling you, it's the first to leave Africa. It roughly is predated between 60 to 70,000 years ago. Afar is the first to leave Africa. And then Afar, and that's exactly what happened. So Midian used to in two parts of the world. It used to be in East Africa, Ashab like a Midian, the Jethro. That if you read the Torah, the Bible, you will see it's Jethro is what you call it's categorized as an Ethiopian. Now, that's another bit I want to clarify as well. One which in antiquity, when we used to talk about Ethiopian, it was only Afar people, nobody else. The Ethiopian, the antiquity, and then the scripture that you know are Afar people, nobody else. Some other people appropriate, even Africans who are with us now, or some Ethiopians, people appropriated this name for themselves, and I'm gonna show you, it's not the case. It's still Afar people. The history that has been, appropriated by other people is Afar people. So Jethro, who was a Midian in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa, in the Afar Triangle, he came there, as you know, close to a well. He has his animal, these two young ladies, and then he helped him obviously with the animals and to give them water and all these things. And then what happened? Then obviously they invite him to speak to the father. They had help today. That's why they're early. He said, yes, you're early today. Jethro said, what's happened? They said, we had a man who was really kind to us. He helped us. That's why we are here early. And then he said, invite him for meal, and then obviously let's share with him our meal. And then he shared. Then he told him. Then now remember, it's two prophets talking to each other. Two prophets. Remember, Jethro is an Afar prophet. And then and I was telling you the other, So, and as you know, Hud and Saleh as well are Afar prophets who predate, because remember, I was linking everything to Cain. And today I am open to any debate for what I'm saying today with anybody. And because when you open the debate, and then you know you will get somewhere, and then the fake history and everything will disappear forever. So obviously Shu'aib or Jethro, he stayed with him 8 years, 10 years later on, or increased to 2 years, 10 years. He stayed with them. Then obviously he married Zephora. Zephora was an Ethiopian woman, with being Ethiopian Afar. Remember, Ethiopian is Afar. Antiquity is always been only Afar people. We're the first inhabitant of Horn of Africa, and we're still here and beyond. Obviously, as told you, we populate everything today, from the Viking, from the British, from the Spanish, from the French, from whoever you name it, from the Arabs, from the Turks, from the Iranian, the Persians, from wherever. I'm gonna come later on to this part of history, with Darwis, with Xerxes, and all these people. I will come, obviously, along here. The time of Abraham and Nimrod. Nimrod was the first conqueror of humanity, the first conqueror, and he was a Cushite. The Cushite as well here is Afar people. And Nimrod is a contemporary of Abraham. And even today, you have in the north of Iraq a place called Tal Afar, in a region called Tal Afar. And we went, an expedition went to help Nimrod. And then so many, Chaldean, the people they call the Chaldean were the Afar people as well. What we had, from up to Alexander Great and even beyond, we were involved in warfare and things like that, and obviously, and I will come to that historic part, but I'm staying now in the biblical side of things. I don't want to divert from this and go further. So then what happened is, obviously Moses came. He stayed with the Afar people. He married Zephora. He had two children, I think, Gershon, Eliezer, I think, and daughters, yeah. And then Then obviously he had a message. God talked to him. Remember, with his staff, and become a snake, and he had the nine miracle to take to confront Pharaoh. God talked to him, saying to him, "You have to go back to Egypt, confront the Pharaoh, because he's obviously mistreating, children of Israel. You have to go there." And then obviously Moses tell him, "I'm not sure, I'm that eloquent and all these things." And he said, "Don't worry," he said, "Help, let my brother Aaron help me." Then obviously he go there, and then this is what I want to tell you here. So we have a mountain in Djibouti now, obviously, called Musa Ali. The French changed the name Musa Ali. Normally the true name is Musa Ali, the mountain of Moses. And then the French changed the name of Ali, who's mean mountain, and Musa, they didn't change Musa, because obviously it would have been obvious. But they changed Musa Ali, the name Musa Eli, the name Eli or Ali. So they changed the Ali, who's mountain, to Eli or Ali in French. Why they did that, I'll tell you why. In 1829, I think, roughly, the Napoleon Wars, and then remember, Egypt was occupied by the British. And then obviously there will be a war, and the French occupied for 8 years or something like that, and then during that time, Champollion Lejeune, Champollion the Young deciphered the hieroglyphics, the Egyptian writing. So the French knew all the history of Moses, where he went, where he stayed, the mountain names, all this thing was written in Egyptian, history. So then the French in 1862, when they came to East Africa, Djibouti, they knew all this thing. Because this part of the world has biblical sense, and then obviously they saw the history of Afar people, because almost everything was linking Afar people to every known history, from the pharaohs to beyond. So then obviously, as a colonial powers, you don't want that history to come back, to come out, and all this thing, or to be known, because someone who has no identity is easy to colonize, to oppress, but someone who has this history, you cannot. So the objective was to wipe Afar people history. That was the objective. So then when they came, then in 1862, then what happened? The Afar people, they signed an agreement with Afar people, alliance. Then obviously they negated the alliance, and then obviously starting doing the colonization side of things. There have been wars and obviously revolts against the French colonial powers. So the French tried to wipe Afar people. They divided Afar people into three countries, in Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti, and put all the groups above them. So to wipe, even they didn't accord us, so they put Afar people under the name of Somali people. Djibouti, they name him Somali, so because it was the objective was to wipe Afar name so that it never appears. That's exactly the objective. So then what happened is, up to today, Afar people history is hidden, and my objective, and the objective obviously, and because by hiding that the name, the history of Afar people, they're trying to hide the history of African people, because Afar people history is African people's history. And what you call the Phoenicians, the Afar, as you know, what the time of, I'm gonna take you back. Obviously, we still let's stay with Moses. Okay, Moses, then he had to go back to Egypt to confront confront the pharaohs. As you're aware, obviously, of the the nine. He showed the nine miracles, and obviously all the disease and the things that they fell on Egypt, and eventually the children of Israel managed to leave, the Exodus. And then this is another thing. This is where the twist in history. The twist is there is a twist in history towards where first in the first time when Moses ran away, where did he go? He didn't go towards the Sinai and cross to Palestine and all these things. That's not the case. Because remember on that day, on these days, there it was hostile in the north borders. The pharaohs used to see as obviously hostile people living on that side of the border. So like Schengen, or maybe the border between Canada and America, or if you compare it to the border between Mexico and the United States. So that's the thing, because towards the south, Sudan and today I'm talking about today's countries, contemporary countries, towards Sudan, and then Eritrea, and then obviously Eritrea, they already says a land of Afar, you see what I mean? So he came towards that. This is where Jethro used to live, and the Midianite as Habalak used to. That's the reason why the Bible and the Torah say the Ethiopian. But obviously the history is changed because nobody has interest that Africans could have that history. So the things, and then this is the reason why he came, because he could not go towards the north, because he was a king, he was a prince of Israel, of Egypt. Remember, he was well known, Moses, so he only could go where there was no check, and then obviously friendly countries. So he came to Afar land, and obviously with Jethro and Midianite as Habalika. This is where he stayed, and then he went, obviously, when he had the mission to free the children of Israel, he went back to Egypt with, and then he managed to do that. Then when they went back, when they left, they didn't cross the Red Sea by the Sinai. No, they crossed again. They went back in the land of Jethro. Yes, they went back there, and then when they went back there, the crossing happened in Bab el-Mandeb, in the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb towards Yemen. This is where the crossing happened. Why? I will tell you. First of all, I will tell you the reason why. So, and I think in the Torah, so it does say the first city or populated place the children of Israel came is in the land of Afar. You can check that, and it's called Ezion Geber. Ezion Geber. It is a land of Afar. It's the first stop for children of Israel when they left Egypt. So that's where it happened. The crossing happened in Bab el-Mandeb. The meaning of Bab el-Mandeb, the gate of lamentation. In Arabic, so it's, if you translate it in English, it's the gate of lamentation. Lamentation of Pharaoh's army who were drawn, by the sea, and that's where the crossing happened to Yemen, and then from Yemen, obviously, they move across. It took about 4 years to, and remember, the census at the time, from my understanding, or from the reading I made, there was about 603,000 and 603,000, I think, and that's man from 20 and above. So they didn't count women in it, and no children under 20. So imagine now a line of 603,000 people and plus traveling, crossing, and how long it will take for those people to come to whatever the objective is. So, and then as well, another thing is I would like to say as well, before the creation of the state of Israel, what you call Yemen had the most Jewish population in Yemen than all Arab country. So that's that's show in a way that the crossing happened there, and then obviously some people stayed there, and they didn't go along and that's how I see it. So the crossing happened through the Bab al-Mandab there, and then another things, because through the history, obviously Afar people history transcend almost everybody, as I told you. And then one day when obviously the crossing the thing happened, and Jethro visits Moses, obviously with the children or all this thing, and then Moses he was judging, was passing judgments on things and all this thing. He was doing it on his own, and he told him, listen, you're going to exhaust yourself this way. This is how you have to have different level of courts, and you have to have people who are obviously not corrupt and all these things. And he showed, and remember, he stayed 8 years with Jethro, who was already a high priest or prophet, and who was already ruling over a very powerful and advanced people himself. And then he showed him how to rule and how to judge people. And he said to him, you gonna come once it goes through those low level, and then you'll have to be, when it come to you, then you will be judging, the high instance, or the high court, or crown court as they call it here, the highest court. Then when it comes, then you're gonna judge people at that stage. Let the other people do. You have to train people, and so that they do that, and that's one thing as well. So this is exactly what happened. So historically, this the Afar people linkage with every single things you know of. Yeah. So obviously I was showing to you now through Moses or thing, the crossing. So obviously let's go back now to Solomon. Obviously, as you know, Solomon is the son of King David. So then this is where the lineage come back to the firstborn Davidic line starts. So obviously Davidic line, so from David up to Isa. Then obviously you have the other linkage, the Afar people, linkage from the Abraham to Ismail line. So the Afar people are connected there. So that's why I was telling you what you call the priesthood people, because whatever way you look at it, whatever side you look at it, the Afar people's presence are there. And let's go back now, the Davidic line. So obviously Solomon, as you know, Solomon married Sheba. Who's Sheba? Sheba is the descendant of Abraham and Keturah, and Job. Remember the prophet Job, the patient man, the man of that quality and all these things. He was Afar as well, because that's the Medians and Kenite, whatever you call them. This is the same line. Sheba is well known as the Sabaean, were Afar people as well, and Ethiopian as well. Ethiopian, remember, will go back to Afar people as well, nobody else. And it's like today when we say Americans, kind of things. Who's the Americans? Initial American, so the initial Americans, if we are truthful to each other, are the Native Americans. So that's how we should see it technically. So the Afar people were the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians and the Greeks and everybody used to call the Ethiopian were the Afar people, nobody else. So then Saba was an Afar woman, so she married uh, 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 Solomon, and then they have a child called Menelik. Menelik again it was Afar, because remember, like the Davidic line from Canaan. If you go back to Canaan before Enoch, even later on, with the Canaanites, Edomites marry Canaanite and all these things, as well from that side as well. They link to Afar people. Bathsheba, what you call Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, is Afar. His great-grandmother, Ruth, is Afar, who linked to Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, Afar. So that's the thing. So everybody appropriated the history in Ethiopia now. Let's go back to Ethiopian brothers. So the Amhara and the Tigray appropriated our history. And that's what I'm telling you now is in the scriptures, clearly in the Torah. You find it in the Bible. You find the linkage to Menelik that everybody talking about is Afar. The linkage is to Afar people. And then obviously I will link it to, obviously I was telling you about Nimrod, then I will come to that, because today the tonight program was to show the lineage from, obviously through the DNA side of things rapidly, and then obviously the scriptures, and obviously I had to talk to you about Lucia Afarensis. So whatever civilization, remember what Solomon, I'll talk back to go to Solomon again. Remember, he used to go to the land of Ophir. Every 3 years, he used to get gold, silver, incense, or the precious, stones, spices, animals. Everything used to come from Ophir land. And Ophir is in East Africa. And Tamrin, who used to be a Phoenician, a Canaanite, an Afar, remember, and then he was linked to Sheba, and then he used to come every 3 years to Afar land in Ophir. Remember, Leon, I told you Ezion Geber, this is where, the exodus happened, and the first land where they came in the Afar people in Africa. So that's where everything happened. And then every 3 years, Solomon used to get things, the timbers and all these things to build the temple and the palace. The temple and the palace. This is where everything used to come from Afar people. Obviously, the links, as you know, in Sheba's land, Sheba, the Queen Sheba, the Bilqis in Quran. So he used to come there. So everything used, and the linkage was never stopped. From Canaan, before Enoch, to date, the history of Afar people are there. So almost every single body report back or revert back to the people of priesthood, the Afar people. And I was telling you earlier on, today, if we are called Africans, it's because Afar people, because Afar used to be a great sailors, seafaring people, the Phoenicians. We explored the globe before anybody else. And we used to be a great nation, well-known nation across the world. And every other civilization, we met every other civilization. They used to meet us. And today, if you see the people of North Africa, the Berbers, they have been Afar, been Afar, so it's well known. So what you call very well known brother from Berber descent. He used to say himself, Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun used to say that he was a Marco Polo, so he was a Marco Polo for Arab people and Muslim people, the Marco Polo that time. he used to say that they come the ancestor were Afar people, and I think the Berbers tradition and all these things. If you see today, is a lot of things you see is very close. And then I'm now in the process of getting more information from all the sources, and then I will link that as well. And the genetic side, link it, because when I had my genetic test taken, then they said myself I have a linkage to the Mozambique people in Algeria, and that's clearly saying that from my father's side, Mozambique people in Algeria. So if there is any Mozambique there, hello, yeah. So directly linking there, and obviously linking me the Afar DNA, almost every single person outside of Africa as well, up to Nigeria, West Africa, Kenya, or and beyond. Obviously the Somali people easy, because we're very close people, and up to the Somali people as well. The linkage is there. So this is the history of Afar people that was disinvented, and then I have as a mission to make sure that history is brought to the fore, and share it with the world, because it is something that's coming more and more, with the nets and everything. Most things now are coming to the fore about the Afar people, the history that was hidden on purpose. And that is normal, because someone who has no identity, and someone who has this level of identity, have to make sure he bring it to the fore, and he share it first of all with his own people, and beyond with the world, with the Africans, because this is a common history that today, as early on I was telling you when I started this program, if someone appropriate your history, then they can tell it for you, and then they hide it from you, and then obviously this African proverb said, until lion have their own historian, hunting story can only sing about the glory of the hunter. That's what has been happening through history. Other people, as you know, if you see the pharaohs, things, the Hollywood, and all these things, you don't see Africans. Everything today, even the coffee, or chocolates, or whatever, saying made in Belgium, or made or whatever. So coffee, whatever. So it's African thing originally. So that's the things. People appropriate the things, they give it their own names, and then they say to you, you have nothing to do with that. It's ours. Religions or whatever is Africans originally. We were the one who took it forward with everybody. So that's how I was showing to you the priesthood things. I know sometimes some people will say, and I know some African will say to you, Islam is not African, Christianity is not African, Judaism is not African, and all these things. Yes, every single religion has as a source Africa. Yes, people took it, changed it, and then use it, and they said it has nothing to do with you, and that's what happened, and that's exactly what happened, and obviously, and then we accepted that as the truth. Even if you see Buddha, if you see today Buddha, if you go to Cambodia's the temples, and if you see Negroids forms and all these things. Buddha himself was a priest, an Egyptian priest who went across there, who took religion across. So the religion is an African thing. It's an African thing because Moses alayhi salam, one of the nine miracles, when God tell him, put your hands under of your armpit, or and then it will come out white. It's a miracle. So if according to what we were made to believe, if the children of Israel were white, so if you put your hand here and it come out white, there's no miracle. Of course, there's no miracle. That's obvious. It's obvious. And then obviously, it was obvious as well. Moses being an Israelite and an African, and the Egyptian people being an African. Somewhere he was rescued by the daughter of the pharaohs, Assia. Then it would if he was white, then everybody would have known he was. If the children of Israel were white, then they would have known he was an Egyptian. So that's the thing. So the history was changed on purpose. The history was changed on purpose, and obviously, if you take someone's history, you disappropriate his history, and then you hide from him, then it's easy. That what they used to see, what used to happen with the slavery. Remember, when the slavery, transatlantic slavery, for example, most of the Africans, when they were taken to the New World, they were very educated and advanced. There used to be a big university in Africa, Timbuktu, and all these things. So when some of them, when they were taken there, they were more what you call knowledgeable than what you call the European who enslaved them. And then what used to happen? Then you have to cut the history. You have to wipe that. How they used to do. As soon as a child was born, they used to separate him from the family and send him away. Then that child grow without any history. Then whatever he is told, he has to believe. Obviously, you've seen the beautiful epic of Alex Huxley, things, roots, and how powerful is the things when you know your history and you are aware of it. Not because on a level of identity, the neurological levels of human being, then you have the identity that at the top. You have environment, I think you have behavior, capability, and belief, and then obviously you come to identity, and then obviously the spiritual side of things there above. So the identity, when that is gone from you, then you are easy targets to be manipulated, to be abused, oppressed, and all these things. And this is why today, and I'm just at the moment working on this thing to reappropriate our history, really. This is very important, because it's not for other people to tell our history. We have to tell it ourselves. Because if we let them to tell it to us, then exactly like this African proverb, they will only sing their glory. And that's a duty to everybody's duty to reappropriate his history, and then to tell about African history. Yes, that's the thing. So I will not go further tonight. This is my bit tonight. Obviously, I'm open to any debates, informations. I know you can contact me on Lubak Dongolo, and obviously, or Muhammad Hassan FLN. I'm open to any debate. So obviously, I will come to the other bit later on. Obviously, if you see the history of the king of Israel and Judah, you will see the history repeat itself, and the Davidic lines. You see all the times. You see the Canaanites, the Moabites, all these people, all the linkage, because God's always brought whatever prophet always back to the people that was bestowed in priesthood, the Afar people, all the time. The Abraham, Ismail, what you call Solomon, David, every single body came back to the origin, to the start of priesthood. And that's where the things, and the priesthood, the historical today, and obviously close to us in Ethiopia now. And I want to say clearly, Menelik, the son of Solomon and Sheba, was Afar. That it was Afar, nobody else. So that is a truth that has to be really straightened once and for all. Once and for all. The Kebra Nagast was Afar. Then obviously the line up to Jesus as Afar, up to Muhammad alayhi salam is Afar. That is linked in every single angle you look at it. It comes to that. Here we are. So I will come back again, and then obviously carry on from that side. Then I will go into the Assyrians, and I will go to the Persians, and so on. Obviously to Alexander the Great. I will go because the linkage is there. The Afar warriors, who are part of all these things, this conquest, the Chaldeans, obviously the Phoenicians, all these things, we still will come. I will come along with that, because I want to make sure I bring to the fore Afar people history. By doing so, I'm bringing to the fore African history, and I want to reappropriate my history, my African history, my Afar history. I don't want any more people to tell me about my story. Thank you for listening, and we're gonna finish with the Afar song that I started on with. And thank you for listening. Speak to you soon. Thank you. Good night.
Bismillah, Talking